Oh, is this me?
Yeah.
All right, hello. Welcome to the Black Flag Podcast. My name is John Wiersma. And tonight this episode is not brought to you by Sheath Underwear, but if you want to be cool like me and guys like Dave Smith and Michael Malice and all the other big-time podcasters out there, and you should definitely get yourself a pair of
Promo
Sheath
code
Underwear.
BLACK.
Promo code, that does not work. Promo code problem20, get yourself 20% off your first order. Anyway, I hope you have a good time with us tonight. And I'm also here with Sam Whiplinger and Daniel Hanson, as you maybe saw on the intro. So, Sam, Daniel, how are you doing?
All right.
I'm doing good.
Good.
How are you guys doing?
Looks like we got someone who's unbiased in every possible way.
Every possible way.
To talk about Crowder and Candace Owens and the Daily Wire and all that crazy stuff. So there's when it first came out, there was like a lot of takes, especially when Crowder came out with that video. He didn't name anyone, and then everyone just kind of had a take right away. I kind of sided with Crowder, and then I kind of was like, oh, maybe I got this wrong because he recorded the call with Jeremy, and it's like, well, like he could have just negotiated and stuff like that. But then I kind of found out I don't know. I still think I was right. I think he brought up a good point. And what are your thoughts on all that, Daniel? You're a louder with Crowder fan. We can tell. I don't know how, but something about the way you look.
Full disclosure, I should have brought my Leftist Tears mug because I also am a Daily Wire subscriber. Although I have to question that moving forward because this whole situation has made me question everything behind the ethics of how the Daily Wire does business. There's a huge thing going on. I mean, I love the aspect that of these big alternative media guys asking questions about how to do business, because I don't feel like they should be doing it the same way that everybody else is.
Yeah, and like for a lot of it, it's kind of like when the Twitter files dropped, we were all just kind of like, oh, they're feds sitting behind desks monitoring everything.
Like, obviously, right?
Yeah, like we don't have to pretend to be shocked that the same thing's happening with like big conservative Inc. that they're just propagating propaganda and stuff like that. And
well, yeah, that's true. I mean, I think that there should be a difference between guys like the Daily Wire and like Fox News, though, because when I picture, anyway, this is just my point of view. When I picture big conservative media, I picture Fox News, which
is owned by Disney.
Well, right, I know. so then what you have going on is, I mean, that's their outward projection, and our perception of them, of course, is that conservative media is Fox News. But then when you actually take a half a second to think about it and actually take a look at what they're actually talking about and compare narratives between Fox News and CNN and ABC and MSNBC, they're not that far apart. It's kind of like,
yeah. So definitely,
what can we talk about within these lines right here, right? So I would like to think that people like Daily Wire, which maybe is big conservative media at this point, should be different than Fox News, and maybe it still is. It probably is. But Steven Crowder's saying it's not.
So there's always a difference, but it comes down to is there a meaningful difference? I guess.
Well, no, that's true. Yeah.
So Fox News and MSNBC, yeah, they're totally different in a lot of ways, but
not necessarily meaningful in all sorts.
But they're different
aspects.
Not in the ways that in a lot of ways matter. Fox News will go along with the vaccine, the lockdowns, and all that stuff, in the beginning, and then they'll turn and
they'll slowly provide counterpoint as 49 to 50% of the population want something different out of the conservative side.
Yeah, the thing that's kind of
but it's slow.
The thing that's almost like that I find kind of concerning, and I've noticed it for a while now. I guess haven't really honed in on it until this whole thing, but it's almost I've almost noticed that Tucker Carlson is breaking more conservative stories than the Daily Wire anymore, and that's the weird thing.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
It's like Fox News has almost become more edgy than the Daily Wire, which you would expect, obviously, the opposite.
Well, Tucker Carlson has, not Fox News.
Well, no, you're
Right.
right. Tucker Carlson, but coming from Fox News.
Sure.
And just
The funny part about that is if Tucker Carlson didn't literally have the biggest show in cable television, though, he would have gotten the axe from Fox News a long time ago. But he's bringing in those dollars. He's bringing in those viewers.
He's
they
not.
can't
I don't know. I don't know how many dollars he's bringing in actually.
He's got the views. He's got people.
He's got
watching
the
him.
views, but like most of the corporations are boycotting him, so they're having trouble selling ads. So like that's where My Pillow guy came in clutch, because he put ads on their show and everything.
That's news to me. Okay.
interesting.
So it's pretty crazy. So I think like there's a lot of people that watch MSNBC and just are like, wow, this is complete garbage. So that like there needs to be another voice. And so someone will come in, another Fed organization will come in and be that other voice. And they'll make sure the conversation represents them in the bare minimum, and then also just like propagates all these other crazy things. So this is what the Daily Wire does. So like every other, if you like follow Matt Walsh's tweets, it's like one day he'll tweet something like, like what is a woman? And it's like, oh, that's great. Like we need to push back on this progressive craziness and stuff like that. And he'll just say the most obvious things that we all agree with, and it's just common sense. And then the next day he'll be like wanting to kill people for like having drugs and beat them to death, like in I forget which country.
Singapore,
because their tiny airport.
Because their airport's nice.
Because they have a nice airport because it's tiny and stuff like that. So he just kind of oscillates between just really awesome based common sense stuff and just complete nuttery. And so I think a lot of people, even libertarians, it's like, oh my gosh, you just said something totally awesome. I can relate to this guy. Conservatives are kind of our friends sometimes. Like we recognize that we're different, but we're also kind of sharing a lane in a little bit. Then it's like,
I think we're sharing a lane in a lot of aspects.
Yeah. And I would say like Matt Walsh specifically, I think he is incendiary a lot of times on purpose.
Oh,
like he pushes issues like way further than what you should naturally.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree.
And like, yeah, to the extreme, to the point where, it's going too far. And there are points that I definitely disagree on, but I do think that I guess we kind of run into the same thing with all of the Daily Wire voices. They're all, if this is how they operate, where they're basically, their contracts hold them to certain things they can talk about, they have to be edgy in whatever way they can be.
Well, let's get into that a little bit too, because what they call it a term sheet.
Yeah.
So Jeremy Boring went on a long, boring explanation of like what a term sheet is, and they kind of acted like, it's just a term sheet to get the ball rolling and stuff like that. We just hit, control print or whatever, and we just sent it to them.
And they have,
and it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, so that they
have
the biggest win possible from the beginning, like the biggest ask up front. Right.
Yeah. So I mean, it's 50 million. I know they're a big corporation, but like it's $50 million
over 4 years.
They did not just casually, just to get the ball rolling, send him something.
No,
there's zero chance of that. Like when Dave Smith said he would come on the podcast last week, like I spent a solid 5. I spent like 10 minutes just being like, okay, let's figure this out. What am I going to do? And then like probably 5 minutes just messaging him like a time and date, just because I'm like, this is Dave Smith. I want to make sure I get this right. There's no chance that they're calling, Crowder up and just control print. They have a whole business. They have lawyers. They are lawyers.
Yeah.
Like there's no way they just casually did this. So like it's either like just the biggest insult ever. Because I think they were saying like if he got penalized enough, he would actually be owing the Daily Wire money. Like he could get penalized up to 110%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess I didn't listen to that breakdown. So I watched the initial Crowder video when he released it on YouTube. It's like, this has to stop, or whatever was the title of his.
It was so vague. I don't even know why people got worked up about it, really.
Yeah, but so then, like, I kind of got lost in all the numbers. I mean, it did seem like there was a lot of 10 and 20% numbers, though, that he was talking about, penalties. So.
Well, and I thought that first video, I couldn't like really, even decide whether I was on his side or not, because to be completely honest, I thought he was almost coming off a little bit petty in that first video. Like, to be completely honest, like it's like,
I agree.
okay, so what you're complaining about something, you're not really telling anybody, but your people who watch your show have seen that you've been worked up for weeks and months about something behind the scenes.
Oh yeah.
And now you're coming out in this almost like petty video, and
he didn't tell us how much the offer was.
Yeah, he left it very, very open-ended.
I'm fine with that. Like that wasn't the whole point at all. Like that was the point that the Daily Wire tried to make it about, and he explicitly said he doesn't care, and everything he said about it,
I know,
it has nothing to do with the number.
But I think putting the number out there is important for context, just so you know where the Daily Wire was coming from. Because again, like you said, they're not just dusting off any old contract. They haven't had this kind of money on paper before. And this is half what they committed to all of their children's programming. For one guy. You
could even make it more insidious too, because they're offering him $50 million to basically buy his silence. They're basically $50 million. That way he'll shut up about certain topics and he'll go along with YouTube standards and stuff. That's I really think that's what the Daily Wire is. That
actually is Steven Crowder's point.
And look at it this way. Like when he moved off YouTube for election coverage, like that was major. He would have been penalized. I didn't do the math, but he would have been penalized enormously for election night. That would have been a special event. He would have that would have been probably the $250,000 penalty that was in there, like one of the at least quarter events. And so like you're just for moving platforms, which he did very successfully, and still it's like they didn't take any of who he is into context. And he is the guy who is constantly getting demonetized by these platforms. That's his brand. And so just not to take that into context is just leaving. It's just,
I don't know.
So Jeremy Boring's point was, and a lot of their point is, if you get demonetized off YouTube, we lose money. Everyone loses money. So that's why we would penalize you. And that makes sense in a complete business perspective. Mm-hmm. But they're completely leaving off the fact that he's making, first of all, he's never monetized. He was monetized accidentally for like 4 months, he said.
Yep.
but like, if you're looking at just views and like how much he can sell, like it doesn't matter if it's YouTube or if it's Rumble. Like if you're getting the views, you're getting the views. It doesn't make any sense for them to say, oh, you have to get the views from YouTube.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're a giant conservative Inc. and you are getting away with opposing the state, opposing, big tech censorship, and yet you're on all these platforms. There's something somewhat wrong with that, I think. And I know Tim Pool, I think he skates the line and he pulls a lot of it off YouTube. But like he's one of the few people, there's very few people that are big on YouTube that you could really say are opposing big tech censorship.
Well, yeah, and
not just in bed with like the feds.
I think one thing that's one thing that Crowder's been really important, filling that space, giving us something that doesn't follow the rules and it gets banned from time to time. And that's an important voice to have in that space. If you don't have that voice that's being edgy, that's making those waves, that attracts people. That gets people to wade into the other waters. And I think that going back to just the basics of the contract. Looking at that from a business perspective, working in a small business and seeing like specifically working with sales and commissions, and how that breaks down in a pay structure, there's just so much more nuance to how you can pay somebody than a black and white $50 million 4-year schedule with a no negotiation 2-year at the Daily Wire sole discretion extension. It's if you think in context that Steven Crowder built his empire, so to speak, in 10 years from scratch, from nothing to something that's presumably worth the bare minimum of $50 to get him to even consider it, and you're locking him in for 6 years at that price. That should be a guaranteed bottom, because that should be like, this is your guaranteed. If he was a salesperson, this is your guaranteed salary. We think just by our subscription increase, we can comfortably do this. I think that's very reasonable. The math breaks down, but then based on where we increase in other ways, you have these other potential avenues for increasing that you can easily do bonuses and different things built into that structure.
Well, and it's interesting that Crowder like Crowder doesn't believe it's a good deal. Like that makes sense. He turned it down and all this stuff. The Daily Wire doesn't even believe it's a good deal. Like none of them have been like, no, this is a really good deal. We offered him a lot of money. Everything was great.
Yeah,
it's
that's never been their argument.
Never, ever, ever. They're just like, yeah, it was a shitty deal, but like he could have negotiated. It's like, why would you start with a shitty deal if you knew it was a shitty deal? Like this isn't.
Well, I mean,
this isn't like some punk kid. This is Crowder.
That's
again.
true, but I mean, $50 million isn't exactly chump change either, and you have to start someplace. And
I don't know that it's a lot for Crowder.
I don't.
But it's
like
it's
everybody.
not chump change
everybody
either.
is,
Well, see, I can't speak to that because I don't know the business,
Yeah,
right? Like, and none of us know the business.
According to like just listening to Tim Pool, like it's not.
Sure.
It's not an insane amount of money.
No, it's not. But if you go,
and it's also not cash in his pocket,
well, no, because it's over 4 years, and then it's got all these.
and it's all for his business and stuff like that.
Yeah, for
with,
sure.
with 30 to 50 employees.
No, I get it. But the thing is, though, is that you never open with your best offer.
That's fair.
In a negotiation. You undershoot it by a lot, maybe.
Just don't usually open with a slap to the face. No, I'm
well, but see, that's subjective, though.
Like
It
I bought a van. He was asking $5,500
$50 million is not a slap in the face.
No.
That's a ton of money.
It actually is, and to their credit, again, they said it's not about the money, and I don't.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to get
yeah.
caught up in that,
Yeah,
but I
that's
do
true.
think that
But
just
it
from
is-
a business perspective, like $50 million for somebody like Crowder, I think it should be relatively a guaranteed base, like
I
somewhere around a guaranteed base should be somewhere around 50 million,
And that's maybe what he would have gotten eventually had he actually been like.
and they probably would have been willing to go there.
Like the whole thing is that his problem, the way I see it, is that he has the problem with the Daily Wire because they're not like going all out into this conservative message and pushing back on this liberal left-wing culture, right? And he views this offer as like a subject, it's like they're subjecting themselves to big tech and like not putting their best foot forward in this culture war. I think that's his biggest problem.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm saying is like if you flip the whole thing around, so rather than penalizing him for being demonetized, instead offer him a bonus structure if he is monetized. But again, like just expect him to be demonetized. Cut all of the cut big tech out of it and do like a guaranteed $50 million. I think he's worth that just on Daily Wires. And
Yeah,
I think
who
that's
knows?
and I
I mean,
think
I have
that's
no
kind
idea
of
what
where
You're probably right.
yeah, I
He
think
probably
that's
isn't worth
like
that much money.
I think that's a fair starting point for him too. Like and ethically speaking as well, because again, you take all of the penalties out of there, and that's just $50 million guaranteed, no penalties. And that's because they are building an alternative media. They're building a subscriber base. Presumably, I, as a subscriber of the Daily Wire, assumed that these guys kind of had a little bit more freedom and they were encouraged to be a little bit edgier, and getting demonetized periodically what is just part of the game in the conservative arena. Well, now you find out that when they get
Maybe it
demonetized, it affects them on the backside on their personal life.
Yeah.
And it's like that doesn't seem right, but yet that's what I want out of the people that I'm going to watch. So
Well,
I like Crowder. I like what he's going
Well,
for
I think
there.
that's what Steven Crowder wants too.
Well,
I
the
think
other
you
thing,
and Crowder are in agreement on that, and he's disappointed that the Daily Wire has worked to put it in their contracts to be so safe that they can't be edgy.
Yeah.
well, the other thing too is not only was it just a big slap in the face, but like Candace Owens said, well, the Daily Wire had to out themselves because people like Candace Owens said that they recognized the contract. So it's like there were things just from that video. Apparently, there's things in that contract that they could all recognize. So like this is indicative that everyone in the Daily Wire, or at least several people or someone, has these terms.
Yeah.
Like if it doesn't matter how many views you're getting, it doesn't matter how much money you're bringing in. If YouTube demonetizes you, you're going to be penalized.
Well, and that's really
Yeah, that is kind of scary.
Yeah, that's really old business. I mean, that's going back for years. Hollywood has always put the studio in the position to maximize on the profit, and they lock any of the talent into a maximum pay as they try not to do bonus structures for anyone because that's where they give up their profits. But
Yeah,
that's where
that's
bringing,
understandable.
but that's where again, like bringing in talent who literally alone could add on another 30% to 50% over the course of the 4-year contract, conceivably, to their subscriber base. It's like we're talking there should be no penalties because that's an incredible amount of money that he would bring to the Daily Wire. 50 million wouldn't even I would have to do the math, but
Another
it
thing
wouldn't
is,
be close.
Candace Owens, like, I don't know how much she knows or she's just talking out of her butt, but like she was saying, like, this was that phone call that Crowder recorded, which it was kind of weird that he recorded it, and it was also kind of weird the wage slave thing. It's like, yeah, that he replayed it like it was some big gotcha. It's like, okay, yeah, but we're not communists, so what does?
Well, and I don't think Jeremy Boring believes in like that regular workers are wage slaves.
Right? Yeah, I mean,
No.
we're not.
You know, I don't. Yeah, that wasn't like this big gotcha moment.
But according to Candace Owens, they had like months of negotiating, and then Crowder called him up one last time just to record him, just to expose him.
What do you think about?
So if that's true, that means it wasn't just a term sheet. This was the latest development of their contract, and this was a sticking point. And according to Crowder, it was a sticking point.
So what do you think about, like, even if they had negotiated, had several conversations, presumably friends just doing business? You know, it's like we heard three different stories, but what do you think about like somebody recording somebody else, just calling them up, having a conversation, and recording them? Like,
I mean, if you're going, like, I don't have a problem with it. If you're calling someone out and you're burning the bridge anyway, you might as well have all your receipts. Like, I don't have a problem with that.
I mean, it's totally legal.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's also hilarious that conservatives are freaking out about phone calls being recorded. And
Are they actually freaking out about that? I don't know.
In this one case, yeah, the Daily Wire is like, oh, he's recording our phone calls. It's so bad. It's like, have you heard of the Patriot Act?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Well, that is totally legal for people.
Yeah, like
in one consent party states, you can record phone calls.
I don't know. Has like the Daily Wire ever stood up for like Edward Snowden or anything like that? Probably not.
I don't think
probably
so.
throw him under the bus.
And that's the thing,
for
like,
exposing that, you know, the deep state recording everyone's phone calls and listening in on all that. So they don't really have a leg to stand on. And also,
I don't know. They back in the day, they probably talked about how the information that Edward Snowden released got people killed over in Afghanistan. You know, we could probably do a Google search right now. I don't think I want to, but
what do you guys think of Jordan Peterson, the guy who says clean your room first, change the world second? A Canadian trying to get the people in America to go to war with Iran, do a regime change.
Oh boy!
Like, how much of this is kind of like another thing where it's like, what does the Daily Wire actually do? Like, what do they have on Jordan Peterson? Why is Jordan Peterson, who he always talks like not really that into politics.
Yeah.
And then he's just coming out with this
proclamation for war.
Yeah, I mean it's another.
It's kind of disappointing.
It's another stamp of the Daily Wire. What they do, they'll say the most incredibly honest, smart, intelligent things, and then they'll come at you again with complete garbage and just perfect propaganda.
Yep. They say that the best lie is stuffed in with lots of truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a phrase called build, break, build, which is kind of like that, where you're supposed to build someone up, then you break them, and then you build them up again when you're training someone or something like that. But it's the same thing with like this. It's like you build up someone's confidence. You say things that we all agree with, and then you just throw in, oh, and we should have regime change in Iran. Also, what is a woman? You know, it's just like, you know.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. Like, what is a woman? That was a huge moneymaker for Daily Wire Plus. I mean,
yeah, it was pretty awesome. I know
it was great.
It was great.
It was a good premise. It was a good documentary, and he did a great job. And it was like, yeah, true.
And I do think that there's a place for the Daily Wire. I don't think that.
I mean, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I don't think that they're doing bad stuff, but I do think that I do think that they've been dishonest, because I was under the presumption that they stood behind their creators,
and they were fighting big tech censorship.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not.
The fact that it's obvious that they're not, and that they're doubling down and enforcing big tech censorship on their creators. That's really disappointing.
Well,
and
that's
definitely
Steven Crowder's point. I think,
exactly.
It says you're right. It's not
so
about the money. Blah,
so
blah, blah.
you have to decide then. Okay, especially as money, bills are getting higher, everything's getting more expensive. What are we going to put our money into? Daily Wire is something that I'm going to look at. Is it an investment that's worth keeping? Is it something that I really trust to continue getting the top quality news? And especially if Crowder comes out with a good alternative and brings out other voices, he's going to become a serious contender in the space, and I think pull a lot of people away from some of the more traditional conservative outlets.
Could be.
Yeah.
Just depends on how much traction he gets with this thing. He also has to Crowder needs to not come across as being kind of whiny about it though, because I think that weak beta male kind of stuff turns people off too.
He does a lot better when he brings Gerald along with him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, I will say
Gerald.
that to me it's just very much okay, he's bringing in views, but they're going to penalize him because they're not from YouTube. So that's the whole issue. But then I watched the whole Tim Pool episode with him on. It was almost like you had to read between the lines to even get that, just because he's more emotional than for a conservative, he's making more of an emotional appeal.
But he always has been.
Because
that's his been his shit,
which is
because
fine.
culture war thing that is very important to Steve
He's
Crowder.
very passionate about it, and it's never been about the business. It's always been about the customer, about the viewer, about changing culture,
and influencing the culture in a good direction.
Which is why it was really important he made Gerald his CEO. I don't know. I mean, it might not be the best decision that he's made, but at the same time,
I didn't know that.
It's probably fine. I don't know.
I think it will, like you said, emotional. I think
I rolled my eyes earlier. I think Gerald's fine, but he's kind of boring on his.
So is Jeremy boring. So they
But a
can
good
compete with
CEO.
boringness.
I'm sure Gerald would do a fantastic job as a CEO of whatever.
Yeah, you got to be a little boring to be a CEO.
Somebody has to.
Someone has to be the boring person.
Yeah.
Although it is interesting, and I saw this topic too on Twitter someplace. I don't remember, talking about this whole thing where Crowder. Do you guys remember back in the day, Not Gay Jared?
Yes.
And so supposedly the story is that Steven Crowder has Not Gay Jared locked in some non-disclosure agreement, some contract, and that's why Not Gay Jared, and then they had a falling out, but then Crowder wouldn't let him out of the contract, and that's why Not Gay Jared is gone.
It's possible, but also Not Gay Jared did tweet out something like, "I'm fine." I have no idea. I don't remember what he tweeted out, but he basically said Crowder's doesn't have anything over on me, or he's not. Crowder's not doing anything wrong. He said something along those lines, and it wasn't something Crowder had to make him do or could make him do. He just did it.
Fair enough. That's just something I heard. Well, that's good news.
If I was under a contract and I was really pissed about it, I would never have tweeted that out. So my guess is they had a good business understanding, even if they did have a falling out.
Okay.
Which
I guess my overall point is I would give up Gerald to get Not Gay Jared back, because I was like, I like Not Gay Jared better than Gerald.
Yeah, that's fair.
I always want to get into these conservatives, but then I'll just listen to them for 5 minutes, and then they'll just say something completely nuts, and I'll just pause and then do an inner rant in my head for an hour, and then I just give up, because it's just
I'm done with these guys.
That is one thing I do appreciate about Crowder, is he definitely has a lot of libertarian leaning in his logic.
But he doesn't know what a libertarian is.
No, but he does base a lot of his logic around the non-aggression principle.
Yeah, well,
and
cool.
so I appreciate that, because I think that really does.
Until it comes to drug dealers, or
Well, everybody has something that you have to disagree with.
You got to give it up somewhere.
You do, yeah. I mean, I think that he does other shortcomings too. But overall, I think that he's probably one of the most consistent in his ideals, and they are conservative. But like you said, he's a very passionate guy, so it's more about culture than it is even about politics. And so I think being more conservative culturally, I think is, again, a good thing.
One thing I was going to say about the culture is I think the culture is perpetuated by the state because they want to throw stuff at conservatives so that they're reacting to that's dominating the news. So we're not talking about Russia, Ukraine nearly enough. We're not talking about the war in Yemen. We're not talking about like so many other, well, the fact that the Pentagon just misplaces trillions of dollars every now and then.
I think they lost $2 trillion in Afghanistan. I think is the number.
Yeah, I mean, so just insane stuff like that. So they need the culture war. They need to propagate that and make it a big deal. But it's also kind of like if someone tosses you a baby to distract you while they run away or something like that.
Wait, wasn't the A-Team about that?
I don't know.
Didn't the movie, when they remade that, wasn't that about losing trillions of dollars in Afghanistan? That's a movie. I just realized it's real life.
No,
sorry.
But what I was going to say is like you still have to catch the baby. Like even
true.
if it is a complete distraction, but yet you just kind of have to have that in your mind that you
Yeah.
know like this is what's going on. So like the Daily Wire will go all in on what is a woman, but they also need to like recognize if they weren't just propaganda, they would recognize that this is also a distraction and we need to fight other stuff as well.
Yeah.
Because there's a reason they're pushing so much progressive craziness. Like they're not. Some of they're just complete degenerates. Like I'm not taking that off the
You're
table.
not discounting the fact that there's evil in the world.
Right.
Yeah.
Evil for evil's sake.
Right.
Yeah.
But like it also benefits them a lot to be pushing this stuff. So.
Well, and I mean, you really have to. You have to look at the motives behind all of this. You have to look at where money's at play. You have to look at the direction that money moves, because there's always a motive behind everything. And I don't know who said it first. A lot of people have said it, that follow the money. And I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. And money always leads to more money. Always leads to more money. Always leads to corruption. And so. I mean, that's with anything.
The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yeah. And so you have, I mean, even these conservative movements, there's going to be corruption in them. And I think that we're living in a time where it's probably one of the most transparent times we've ever lived in, where more people are aware that there is corruption.
Yeah.
Than ever have been, just because of the freedom of information. And at the same time, it's being censored more than it ever has. And so people end up in bubbles or with tunnel vision or whatever. But yeah, it's just very interesting dynamics.
Should we talk about Eliza Blue?
Let's shift gears completely.
Not really. I mean, she's
mean,
another grifter,
yeah.
just like she's not who she said she was, and similar to what the Daily Wire and all this stuff. Like so I followed her probably like 2 years ago, and she's just always been, like against sex trafficking and calling it out and stuff like that. Especially on Twitter, she was calling out, like, why is this not being taken off of Twitter? Why does this still exist on Twitter?
Which was a darn good question, by the way.
Yeah. Which was, very accurate. And, she claimed she was sex trafficked at one point too. So it just makes sense that, this would be her passion.
So I listened to a episode where she was on Michael Malice's show.
Recently?
No, this is a while back. I think it would have been probably like 18 months ago. Probably, I think it was in the summertime. So listen to it when we're on our way back from vacation.
Okay.
But I don't think it was last summer. I think it was the summer before. I think.
All right.
And she was kind of in that one. She was kind of vague exactly how she was trafficked.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like maybe people were like, she was insinuating that people were like making fake accounts of her using pictures that they had digital copies of,
She
and then
did say on the episode on Timcast that she feared for her life. That's
so
no, that's very vague. I'm not saying what that is. I'm just saying she said that.
So there's if somebody's making fake accounts of you online using your pictures that they just screenshotted or something like that, I mean that wouldn't be exactly a life-threatening situation. So who knows what exactly was going on with that? But
yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I have no idea either. I don't think she's ever really, from what I've been aware of, she's never really made it exactly clear how she was trafficked.
Right.
I don't know.
But
so she took down a video, or she really got upset about a video of, I think she was nude or something like that. Some video and like nobody even cared. No one even knew anything about it or anything. But she went berserk on it. She's
Like, is this recently?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So she was trying to get everyone to take down the video.
Oh, is this World Star Hip Hop
Yep. Yeah.
video? Okay. I mean, I've never seen it, but
I probably never will.
well, it's going off Twitter now, so
Yeah. So she's working.
But I've just heard about this World Star Hip Hop video or whatever.
Well, I should back up. So yeah, I followed her. She's libertarian leaning and all that stuff, and she just has a really good cause. That was her main thing.
Yeah.
Not super deep into politics, but she definitely hung around the libertarian circles and stuff.
Yep.
She also made appeals to Andrew Yang and stuff like that to just try to get this thing going.
Yeah.
And then apparently she took off once Elon Musk bought Twitter, because she was just bugging Elon Musk every single day. Like, get this child porn off Twitter,
Which is commendable.
Exactly. And then she said it did happen. And then her account blew up and stuff like that. And she was working with Elon Musk. According to one Twitter guy, I'm trying to remember his name, I'm forgetting, but according to him, that never actually happened. Like, she never even got child porn off the search.
Really?
Yeah. According to him. So I'm trying to remember his name, the quartering guy.
Okay.
He's been covering it pretty, and I don't know if this is true. I don't have any way of verifying it, but
you're not gonna go searching for it.
But according to him, like, the ways you search for child porn on Twitter, those search keywords are still up and they're still being used. Nothing changed. A lot of people were telling Eliza that, and she was just ignoring them. And I think even Elon Musk had to start working with other people than Eliza, because it just wasn't getting taken down. So
really,
yeah. So I mean, there's always
okay. So what's your source on that? Where are you reading that?
The quartering.
So you're going through the quarterings.
Yeah. So
Twitter.
like, I mean,
and reading.
Here's the thing. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's also very weird that she's trying to censor videos. Like, she went full on censor everything. She's going through, and according to the quartering, like, this is taking hours and hours and hours. She's going through every YouTube video of people talking about her, time stamping them and reporting it to YouTube.
Really?
Also the quartering and several other names that brought up Eliza's World Star Hip Hop video and stuff like that. They got their accounts banned off Twitter. So she's in the pocket of Elon Musk. And I don't know that Elon Musk is a great guy. He's done a lot as far as improving Twitter, but I don't think it's almost like going from, MSNBC to Fox. It's like things got quite a bit better, but it's not like night and day. Or
well, I heard a thing the other day about one of the reasons that Elon Musk bought
50% better. Let's put it that way.
Twitter was, Elon's big into this neural network thing.
Yeah.
And the brain implants, whatever he calls that. I can't remember now.
Neuralink.
Neuralink, yeah. So one of the ideas as to why he wanted to buy Twitter was because of the data set that Twitter has, and just the sheer amount of data of people interacting with each other would feed into his Neuralink data set. The way that he was going to calculate how Neuralink is going to communicate and allow people to communicate with each other is going to like feed off of some of the information brought in by Twitter. And the only way to get all that raw data was to buy the darn thing.
Well, the other thing too is like Elon Musk didn't buy.
He didn't buy. I don't think he bought Twitter to like make it a free speech platform.
Right.
That's not the reason he did it.
He also didn't buy it with cash.
No.
Like, he had to leverage like all sorts of business deals and all sorts of people, and
borrow a bunch of money.
And they're not all like libertarians.
No.
Like, just like pro free speech or anything like these are all corporations. Like, he's improved it, but it's not. But he also satisfied a lot of like conservatives, a lot of people who wanted free speech. He threw them a bone. So like everyone's flooding to Twitter now. I only use Twitter now. I'm so sick of Facebook. They just put me on a ban, and they're so glitchy and everything now too. It's ridiculous.
Oh, you banned on Facebook?
Well, we're not live streaming on Facebook. Let's put it that way. I can post and comment, but I actually think I made the same mistake twice. I posted a Jeffrey Dahmer meme.
Wait, isn't that like a Netflix show? Jeffrey
I
Dahmer's
know, you
off-
wouldn't think
off
it-
limits?
Yeah.
I didn't know Jeffrey Dahmer was off limits.
He is, yeah. I think I did it twice because it was a different meme, but it was Jeffrey Dahmer making some just joke about like, well, if we run out of food, at least we have each other.
You deserve to be banned for that.
Yeah.
Bad joke banned.
That is the interesting thing, though, because it kind of seems like that's Elon Musk's perspective. It's just like flippantly, you deserve to be banned for that, so you're banned.
Yeah.
And it's like it's just like I think overall, I would say it's probably like 95% better. That doesn't mean like it was really bad. So 95% of like 10% only brings it up to it's not even quite to 20% yet.
Yeah.
So it's got a long way to go, and I think there's still potential for improvement. I think Elon Musk appreciates free speech to some extent, but I don't think that motivates him as much as he would like people to believe. I think
he also has his hands tied. Like even if he was a free speech absolutist,
He gets so much money from the government.
But a guy like that, his brain is spinning so fast. Like at this, like he. I think that I don't want to make a claim on his character, but at the same time, I think that with someone like that, it's almost like you would sacrifice something for an advancement in technology. And what you're saying makes complete sense.
He's gonna make a logical decision.
Yep. He calculates everything down to the like if I do this right now and do this
to the best of his
this,
ability with the information he's got, but he's using the information he's got to make a logical calculation, and necessarily emotion probably doesn't play into it as much as maybe somebody else would allow emotion to play into it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's almost like he expanded the data set, though. If you think about it from a data set sort of mindset, like, okay, why did he buy Twitter? Well, it's probably not because he wanted to create a free speech platform. So if what I said earlier was actually true, and then he's really just trying to expand his data set to feed into Neuralink, the conservative mindset and even, extreme fringe mindset is part of the human experience. So maybe he's trying to capture more of that into Twitter to catch some of that data. Mm-hmm. And so he does allow some of these people that were banned back in just to kind of see what happens, to kind of stir the pot, to expand his data set.
If he wants a truly equal data set, he's getting that now because the latest polls that have come out show that now both extreme right and extreme left trust Twitter the same. So they know that it's only independents that distrust Twitter. So no, everybody trusts it more.
Well, and
that's probably fair. That's probably probably should be trusted more.
Well, it's kind of the same thing with like Trump or like Joe Biden or something. Like we can judge them by what they're doing, and definitely should. But like at the same time, they're probably being shown like a different angle of the Kennedy assassination. Like they have their hands tied. The same thing could be kind of happening with Elon Musk. Like he's big enough, he's in all these deals and stuff like that. He might be a free speech absolutist, and he just doesn't have a choice.
Yeah, could be.
But you kind of gotta just judge them by what they're doing, regardless.
No,
I'm not gonna let up on them just because.
So, I was just listening to a documentary on the Waco thing. This is like shift gears again. Like, a little bit.
We got to have a Waco episode for sure.
But just a little bit, just for a second. Okay, so I was listening to a documentary on the whole, Waco Branch Davidian thing, and like how screwed up what the government did in that situation, is beyond normal human comprehension.
Right.
And then you think about that. Okay, so that's the government there, and then you go, okay, so Elon Musk is also taking a ton of money from the government. Like, he's a huge welfare recipient when it comes to his businesses and stuff, and like tax breaks and literally government contracts, shooting satellites into space, using SpaceX rockets and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the same government people,
right,
that are funneling millions, if not billions of dollars into his businesses.
Well, and it kind of ties into like Eliza Blue, where like I would never have guessed she was lying about being trafficked.
And maybe she was.
Why would she be pulling down these videos and doing all this censorship? Like that is the act of someone who's completely guilty. Like it would blow my mind if she was just innocent. She's definitely guilty for using big tech censorship against people.
I had no idea about Eliza Blue before tonight. The last thing I saw was her thing on Timcast. But honestly, she seemed a little bit just.
It was the weirdest thing ever.
She seemed like almost defensive and self-righteous at the same time. It came off really almost cringy. It
was kind of like, I can't talk about that. It's like, you're on the show. Why are you on the show if you can't talk about literally anything?
And then like I believe all of my everyone I'm an advocate for, I believe their story. And it's like, well, but
it's fine if you're an advocate, but
yeah, but I don't know. I
if
think
you're on a show and you're supposed to be talking about it objectively, like you can't just be like, I'm here to advocate for these people.
We obviously know that we know that there are people legally who are trying to help them through this case. We want to know objectively the circumstances. What does it look like? Does it look like what is being said actually happened? I thought that whole episode was a little bit like I said, it was almost kind of cringy, and it was kind of almost like
I didn't finish the whole episode.
It's like they let the air out of it. It was like
those poor guys. They kept asking her questions, and she'd just be like, "Yeah, I can't talk about it because of lawyers." Why are you on the show?
It's almost like she's doing a big publicity stunt. Like the whole last couple of years have kind of come up to this, and she's gotten famous, and she's just going for everything. I don't want to say that she is, but I don't know anything.
I would love to just retract every bad opinion I have about her, and it actually would be pretty brilliant, not gonna lie, if she was trafficked and then she just let this whole issue just ride, and then was able to prove that she was and all that. Like crazy.
I mean, she's got us talking about her.
Exactly. But I highly doubt she's doing that.
Hey, at least she is raising awareness on human trafficking, because that needs to be ended. Now
it's just completely ruining all of that. All of her activism for that, like it's now putting, like anytime someone's advocating against sex trafficking, you're just like, does that even exist? Are they even? Is this an actual charity? Are you actually doing anything? Which I suppose is a good thing to think about.
That might not be a bad thing either, though.
Right? Yeah.
Because I mean, if you listen to any kind of like real alternative media, they will tell you that a lot of these non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and charities are all big gigantic Ponzi schemes anyway.
A lot of the money goes to the top in a lot of these.
Yeah. And so, maybe a little bit of skepticism is probably good. I mean, you should never advocate for skepticism, but skepticism is good.
That is true.
Don't create something to like increase skepticism, maybe, but maybe that's not.
I don't know. I feel like in today's culture, almost like there's things that you should be skeptical about, and I think like anything the government has its hands in, you should automatically be skeptical about. Anything that big corporations that have government funding have their hands in, you should be skeptical about. It's like
I think she's a prime example of how good an actor. Like if she's not who she said she wasn't sex trafficked and all that stuff, which it overwhelmingly appears to be the case. Like it does. I lost my train of thought.
Yeah, no, I would like to look into that more and just see more of the details.
It does show what great acting people can do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's not. It shouldn't be surprising when like the Daily Wires, they're just acting, they're just propagating stuff for the state or and all these organizations. Like you'd be surprised what you can get away with.
Well, think about.
And you can be surprised by how low someone would go. That's gotta be the most psychotic thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Is claiming to be sex trafficked when you aren't.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Just absolutely bonkers.
But people do whatever they can to get famous. It's
crazy.
It depends on what you're going for, what gets you off, I guess. But I I mean, at the same time, it's like when you look at culture, they do these montages where they put everybody, 100 different news organizations together. They're all saying the same thing, like, and this our democracy is in danger or whatever, and they all say it the exact same way, and it's like we really are being conditioned and brainwashed. It's like everything. So why wouldn't they, as we're now looking to more independent avenues of information? Of course, they need to put plants in there, and so I don't know anything, but I do think that there are plants, and so we have to be wise and we have to ask questions. And so if she is, then it would be to our benefit, obviously, to ask the questions to discover that, and to have a healthy amount of skepticism, because I think that if you don't, we're going to be the guys getting hoodwinked if we don't have a certain healthy amount of skepticism.
So do you think the elites that are like pulling the strings and doing all this stuff,
who are they?
Yeah.
It's like we talked about that a few weeks ago.
Who are they? Do you think that they are incredibly intelligent, incredibly smart, incredibly brilliant? Or are you of the opinion that they're just doofuses and everyone's so dumb that they listen to them?
I think 3 generations they were. And now they're so inbred that they're all doofuses.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't agree with that either. What's your evidence for that?
Well, it's there's a lot of hearsay. But at the same time, with the global elites and stuff, the way that you look at how the WEF has positioned different people in world powers from different families and different schools, and you go and you follow how many of the presidents have come through Stanford and different things. Like there's so many different connections and different family paths that you have to look back, and it's like a lot of these family paths, there's certain amounts of inbreeding, not necessarily on paper, but theorized.
I agree with you for the inbreeding. That's fine. But
so I do think that there is today a lower quality. Like if theoretically these plans were put in, like some people say, a lot of the plans were put in place 100 years ago with bringing German scientists over.
Operation Paperclip.
Yep. And so if they were put in that generation, the people who put in these 100-year plans were brilliant. It's like to set these things up, to knock the first domino down or set up the whole domino.
You're right.
And
Prince Andrew does seem pretty stupid to me.
Yeah, and today they're stupid.
But Prince Andrew isn't one of the elites pulling the strings. Like Prince Andrew is more like Joe Biden, where it's like, he's not in charge.
But he's the face of the elites pulling the strings, and if all they have left is a bunch of doofuses, then they themselves can't be that much better. Like, because they put up this face for everybody, and their faces are.
But it works.
It's not working as well, though. That's the thing. It worked for 100 years, but today it's working less than it ever has.
I don't know. We just had 2020 with the lockdowns and all that. Everything kind of went according to plan, especially if you listen to Richard Grove and stuff like that. He'll go through their books and the Operation 2.26. I don't know. I just started listening to him, but like he'll break down, like they'll tell you what they're going to do, and then they do it.
Yeah, well, then there's a whole other theory and talk about how the WEF is like, that's not even the one we should be keeping our eye on.
No, they're another like.
They're like the puppet.
Yeah.
The WEF is just like the face of what's really going on.
If you're seeing like memes about him,
and Klaus Schwab is
a puppet. Yeah, he's a total. He was put up there,
and so is George Soros.
Yep,
he's a puppet too.
Yep.
You think so?
Absolutely.
Wow.
But if Klaus Schwab was put up there to be the supervillain-esque guy that he is, brilliant choice, by the way. Whoever cast that role,
they watched a lot of James Bond movies. That's all I got to say.
And so excellent casting.
You see, what we need to do.
I was gonna say whoever did the casting on the latest Superman movies could have taken a cue from them.
Yeah, no kidding.
But yeah, no. If all these guys really are puppets, whoever's behind the scenes, it still begs the question. It's like, why are your puppets of low quality, and why are your puppets poking holes in your boat?
Yeah, see, I don't know. I don't know if there's that many holes in it, though. That's the problem.
Well, think about it like this.
Like,
when Obama didn't wear a face mask to his birthday, everyone was like, oh, look at this, he's not wearing a face mask. Oh, the elites are so stupid, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but he also got away with it.
Yeah.
And he also knew he would get away with it, and he didn't care. Like all these people, they'll dance in the streets when everything's locked down. It's like,
yeah,
because they can.
Yeah. Do you think that Joe Biden actually got the CV?
No,
I don't think he did.
Nobody got.
They
if they know better, they didn't.
He didn't get.
Yeah.
He did not get that.
no,
Every single angle I've ever seen on it, it's like behind.
Really?
It's impossible.
Well, I'm sure if they were gonna fake it, they would just put like, saline or something in it. Like,
I've never seen
give
it.
him an actual
I've never
jab.
seen it even happen.
It would be
Never even
impossible.
poked
They would
I'd freak out
never.
because he's like not even present.
They would never put an emergency use
Put a pop the
authorization medicine
Hell
in the
no.
president. Never. Like, think about like all of the movies that have been made about things like that. The president never is at the front of line. He's always, because he's too vital. They quarantine him, keep him away from everyone so he can't get sick. But they're not going to give him some experimental medicine.
Hell no.
right?
Like,
Yeah.
no, there's no way. No, none of those leaders did. There were probably some senators and stuff who walked down to their local physician and asked for it. But anybody who's part of the actual system, no, nobody's that stupid. And that's the thing that really irked me. Like,
they were not going to be part of that data set.
yeah, and I follow
test.
I follow Scott Adams. I don't know if you guys know the Dilbert creator on
I do know
Twitter.
Scott Adams.
So he really annoys me a lot of the time.
Yeah.
but
Like, a lot of the time.
but
I've argued with him.
yeah, he says some things that some of it I partially agree with, and some of it just really irks me. But
he's not a terrible Twitter follow.
No.
Yeah, he says some decent stuff every once in a while.
But he said something, and he said, "Well, can we at least agree?"
Like, a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He said, "Can we at least agree that though the people who chose the vaccine had a good logic behind their decision, because
No.
they looked at the data, and the data at this point said this and said
No.
this." And that was my answer. It's like, no, because I know from history, looking back 100 years, how viruses act. I didn't look at the 2 years of data that you were showing me, or the 6 months of data. And then also,
we're gonna get kicked off of YouTube with this one.
oh, sorry.
No,
yeah.
it's fine.
No, but then with like
The feds don't care about it anymore. They know it's up.
Okay.
The,
Yeah,
the
so-
jig is up.
The jig is up for
Oh,
sure.
So
yeah,
with the CV though, you look at how they're massively pushing something like this, and common sense just dictates anytime somebody tells you have to do something, it's not in your best interest to do
Well-
it, or somebody wouldn't be telling you have to do it.
As Scott Adams also said recently, the people, the anti-vaxxers, are the winners.
He did.
And it's never a bad thing to not believe the government. I paraphrase that a little bit.
He did, and that's where he had that was
Yeah.
really good. It was in that same rant that he said,
Yeah.
"Can we at least think that like the
Yeah,
vaxxers had good
no,
logic?"
I
But
don't
I don't
agree with
believe
that.
they did.
because you know what? The vaccine came out 10 to 12 months after COVID, came to the United States or whatever in March of 2020. And the COVID vaccination wasn't even fully available till February of 2021.
I know we
And at
all
that
talked
point-
about this before the vaccine came out, and I'm sure my answer, if any of you would have asked me, am I getting the vaccine, was I will wait at least 5 years to see the clinical data on it, the long-term clinical data. 5 to 10 years is a minimum for any new medicine. That's just, if I'm going to put
My
something
answer
in my
would have
body.
been hell no forever.
Yeah, and probably.
I mean, I get
but
it.
at the same time,
they
it's
lie
like
about
if
the
it,
data too. I'm
if
sure.
it turned out
Oh,
to
well,
be
they do.
I'm sure they do, but if it turned out to be an undeniably miracle drug,
Listen to
I'm not saying it ever would, but in the rare
for
in
sure.
the
Like if it was like penicillin or like antibiotics,
I
where
don't even think that was
well, I mean, every once in a while it comes in handy.
Penicillin-
yes, it does. It does
and,
sometimes.
and even you, Daniel, will have to admit that penicillin is an essential drug.
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not saying it's not. There's a lot of really great drugs. I just think it's overused.
Oh, well, yeah. Anybody. The doctors even will say, oh, yeah, we kind of overuse this. Would you like a prescription for penicillin?
Yep. Exactly.
No, it absolutely is.
Well, we're nearing the top of the hour. What has been? No, I'm just kidding.
What's been your favorite part of this podcast?
Yeah, let's do quick plugs. So next week we're having Ryan Dawson and Reed Coverdale on.
I'm so excited about that.
yeah, it's going to be awesome, and we're not going to be debating them for borders or anything like that.
No,
So we'll just be able to talk to them.
Yeah, no,
Not like when
debate.
Dave Smith was on. Although that was great, it was. There was a little hole in my heart where it was like, it would have been fun to just talk to Dave too, you know, like not argue about borders. But it also did fulfill my lifelong fantasy of 2 years fantasy of like, man, I would really like to talk to him about the borders and argue with him about that. So I definitely got my nerd libertarian out of my system.
I think we need round 2 though. Dave Smith, Black Flag Podcast, borders. We need round 2.
That I would be down for that. I don't know if he would. I
don't know. I feel like he did say we should do this again sometime.
Yeah, literally the exact same topic.
That is a literal quote from Dave Smith on this podcast. We should do this again sometime. All right.
I know Will's kind of like, oh, I still want to like argue about borders and stuff like that. I'm like, I spent like a week listening on and off to like border debates and studying for that, and I was just like, I'm done with it for now.
Yeah, Will's kind of excited about it. Go Will.
I still got to listen to our own debate on it and just kind of like learn, because there's certain things where Dave Smith came at it from a different angle, and I'm like, I cannot process this fast enough.
Yeah.
So it'll be fun to re-listen to that and see if maybe I have the wrong position.
Maybe, you always have to be open to that possibility.
But yeah, we're gonna have Ryan Dawson on. I think the topic is just gonna be Southern Reconstruction and stuff like that, and really dig into how great Lincoln is.
Oh my God! Are you trying to get him to cancel on us? Sam or what?
It was so funny. We reached out to Reed to get to Dawson, and Reed was just like, "Hey, talk to my friends. They also hate Israel." that was like her in.
You got to find common ground.
Yeah, so super excited about Brian Dawson. We're gonna put out some ads for that, and
yeah, I'm super excited about it too.
Give us any questions you want us to ask him. Post them on our Twitter or in the comments and stuff like that. Do you have any final thoughts, Daniel?
You can follow me at Ryan Hanson. On Twitter. Yep. Ryan_Hanson.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. You got to put that underscore in there.
Other
than that, thanks for having me. I mean, it's been fun.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you on again sometime and talk about this exact same subject.
Exact same subject. I would talk about nothing else.
Our mutual friend Zach Smith, he said some kid referred to you as Daniel Hanson.
Daniel Hanson,
and he thought it would make a great folk song to write, and so he sent me the lyrics to that. And next time we have you on, we'll definitely play the Daniel Hanson folk song.
I can't wait. I'm actually really looking forward to this now.
John, you got any plugs? Anything you want to say? Any final thoughts?
Just come see us again next week with Ryan Dawson, Reed Coverdale. Excited about that. I'm on Twitter at John_Wiersma, WIE. So.
And I'm gonna play our intro. We didn't play it at the intro, but let me know what you think of it. I get mixed results on it. Some people
like it. Some people are like,
say it's all right. I need a new one. Let me know.
I was gonna write you a pretty little poem, but I work my dirty brittle fingers to the bone, make payments on a home that I will never own. Sure, there's better things in life, but I will never know. There's more going on than the TV will show, but they keep you too busy to believe what you know. So evil will grow, you won't reap what you sow. You'll owe to those control who cheated and stole. See, this is what I'm thinking, falling asleep as the sun slowly rises. When my crusty eyelids crack open, I won't give a fuck what the time I'll be back on some bullshit hustle, back on some meaningless grind, paid shit slaving for the matrix, struggling to make it with my 9 to 5. What is life? I'll tell you what life seems to be to me.
Anyway, thanks for joining and watching the Black Flag Podcast.
Have a good night.
Peace out and stay black and flaggy.